Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the first panel, I raised concerns about the NRC's handling of its Part 53 regulatory development. So this is for the advanced nuclear reactors. Some exciting technology in Washington State, too. As outlined in the letter members of Congress just sent to the Commission. And I believe all of you do not think that the current proposal is workable. I also believe many of you expressed this repeatedly to NRC staff. So to Ms. Korsnick, Mr. Merrifield, Mr. Nordhaus, my first question is, how do you instill within NRC a results-oriented culture, a culture that measures its work, shows progress, works to adhere to the laws that Congress has passed? And I'm going to start with Ms. Korsnick.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the question. It has to start with leadership. Honestly, if you want the organization to change, it has to be important to leadership. They have to talk about it. You know, we've had previous working relationships with the NRC that have been very helpful and have solved problems, and we've worked through things. Part 53 was not that experience. It has been one of the most frustrating interactions, I think, between the industry and the regulator that I've been associated with, and I have 35 years with this industry. And again, to change that, I think it has to come from leadership. It's not about holding meetings. It's about listening to the feedback. They held a lot of meetings. They didn't listen.
Okay, thank you.
I concur with Maria. As a former commissioner, I have to say, it's been very disappointing to see how this has all panned out. I sat in a lot of those meetings, and I'll tell you, there wasn't a whole lot of listening. There was listening, but there wasn't engagement, and I think some of it was a bit of a kabuki dance, frankly. I think what they've come up with in terms of Part 53 is not useful. I don't think it will be used. And frankly, they could do a whole lot better. The agency's been around for 50 years. They've got a lot of knowledge. They ought to be able to put together an efficient and streamlined licensing process for advanced reactors, and what we got is completely opposite of that. Ultimately, when I was a commissioner, we got held accountable by Congress. Former Senator Pete Domenici called us to the carpet. We had a similar situation that happened with the earlier iteration of Part 52, the two-step licensing process. And the commission at that, one-step licensing process, and the commission at that point went back to the staff and told them to start from scratch. This piece in Part 53 isn't workable, it's not going to be helpful, and it certainly is not what Congress intended by passing the law.
Thank you. Mr. Nordhaus?
I'll just agree with both of the prior comments. I don't think that this happens without greater leadership both from Congress and from the Commission itself. And until, and as I mentioned in my opening comments, it was very heartening to see 60 members of Congress, bipartisan, saying, to the Commission that this Part 53 rule, we need to go back to the drawing board. It needs substantial changes, and being pretty explicit about a set of the major problems that need to be addressed before that rule moves forward. I think that the Commission and the commissioners need to sort of take up that challenge and send that message very clearly to the staff that they need to go back to the drawing board. They need to go back and look at, as our organization, which was, I think, certainly on the sort of NGO, non-governmental side, attended more of these meetings, submitted more extensive public comment than sort of almost anyone else participating. Very little of it was actually kind of taken up, and I think that was generally the stakeholder experience. So I think until Congress, makes it very clear that we need a substantially modernized and different framework for licensing advanced reactors, and then I think we need to expect that the commissioners kind of follow through on that and demand that of the staff.
Great. Okay, thank you. And to that point, Mr. Merrifield, you mentioned that there were lots of meetings. I wanted to ask, do you think the NRC licensing staff in interactions with applicants should not act as a consultant on agency rules and guidance as they've been telling applicants, I understand?
I think what the agency staff can do is engage. They can have workshops where they actually engage in back and forth conversation to try to derive better understanding of where the licensees are coming from and where the agency positions are. Many of the meetings were not much more than listening sessions where the utilities and other advanced reactor developers would explain their concerns, which were met with, thank you very much, we'll consider it. At the end of the day, Dan Dorman was here earlier. Dan Dorman and his senior team are perfectly satisfied with the package they delivered to the commission on Part 53. That's troubling to me. Despite all of the concerns that have been raised by Congress and by folks on this side of the table, they have they believe that they're completely in the right. I think that there's, and I put this into the speech I gave at ANS earlier this year. I think there's some fundamental issues of the agency. One of them is technical depth. I'm a little concerned whether they have the technical capability to come back with a better product.
Thank you. It's very helpful for you all to be here and to tell us from your perspective what's going on. We're going to work on this with bipartisan support. Thank you.